Like women's basketball, the game, the excitement, the attention. Maybe I'll start with you, Kel, because Lord Jesus, your team and their fans are getting up in everyone's business. All right, so something finally happened in the Indiana Fever locker room, and not just anyone, but Kelsey Mitchell, one of the team's most reputable and longstanding members, called out the nonsense because Sha'agya went open her mouth again, and this time she went way too far with her little jabs at Caitlin Clark-Shannett. There's a lot to take in, and she's just really loud and kind of obnoxious for the sake of... She began with her typical sly sarcasm, those remarks that appear to be jokes on the surface but are obviously intended to cut deeper. Well, Kelsey didn't laugh, and her response wasn't just a weak PR response either. It was fierce, bold, and personal. Mitchell stood tall, not only for Caitlin Clark, but for every player on the Fever's roster who has been pulled into this media circus, only to have their integrity called into question. And Lord Jesus, your team and their fans, Jesus, they are getting up in everyone's business. Wait, I just noticed that. Your team and their fans are getting up in everyone's business. Kelsey came with receipts, clarity, and fire. This wasn't just a teammate throwing a quick line of support. Her message was clear. You don't come for Caitlin Clark. You definitely don't disrespect the Indiana Fever family and their fans. And yes, this entire moment is going viral for all the right reasons. It began when Cha Agum launched one of her famous half-kidding zingers during a media segment. She said, Lord Jesus, your team and your fans, they have... The question was phrased, Lord Jesus, your fans. It's obvious that the purpose of the comment is to make fun of Caitlin Clark's influence. It reiterates the stereotype that there is something wrong with Indiana Fever fans, which I don't like. However, Kelsey Mitchell is a professional, and she will eventually put them in their place in a way that they didn't like. However, the fact that Fever fans have been attending in record numbers shows that Clark has given the team unparalleled energy and national attention. Tat chose to portray that growth as a nuisance rather than commend it. The implication of her comment was that Indiana and its supporters are too loud, too bold, and too much for the league's liking. Let's face it, this wasn't a neutral observation. Rather, it was a subtle attempt to support the tired narrative that Caitlin's presence is a burden rather than a boost to women's basketball. And that's where Kelsey Mitchell had enough. For starters, I think I've seen both sides of it, including being on the team with Tane and knowing that some of the stuff and the waves she created for, like, as, you know, where the game is and what she's been a part of, like, as far as this process. She didn't have to raise it or insult anyone. She just had to speak the truth. And wow, it hit hard. I think the big moment for me lately was the shift in the moments in the Indiana period. Like the arena where we started and BB was my vet, she was in a Fever girl first. So she also saw, you know, what she was a vet too, what Indiana was. And I think the big moment is now where it's at. I think the big moment is seeing the shift and being a part of it from the perspective of, I know where Indiana was. So to see the cultivation of it, you just grow to appreciate the process and the growth in which the game is going. Ask Kelsey if there was a time this year when the rise of women's basketball became evident. She was obviously looking for a tactful way to avoid giving Caitlin credit, but instead, Kelsey hit her with the truth. I think the rise of women's basketball has a lot to do with Caitlin Clark. Boom, just like that. There's the face. There's the face again. Okay, let me get closer so you can see my face better. There's the face again. She asks about the explosion of women's basketball, and Kelsey Mitchell doesn't waste any time talking about it. It's not what China wants to hear. It's not what the media, ESPN media, the WNBA, the old guard, it's not what people like Cheney and the legacy media voices behind her, Elle Duncan, Monica McNutt, Cheryl Swoops, have spent the last few months doing backflips in an attempt to avoid giving Clark her due. Remember when one of them even admitted to being jealous to me? Yes. I mean, would you be jealous of someone who got $28 million, 0 cents, a shoe deal, or whatever the deal is before you step foot in the pros? They don't want to admit it because doing so means acknowledging that a rookie is currently the most prominent WNBA player, and that doesn't fit their storyline. Instead, they spread strange coded messages about how Clark's fans are too many, how her attention is overblown, or that she hasn't proven herself yet. But Kelsey wasn't having it, so she entered the studio with a message for everyone. This is only women who understand this, and I'm tired of it. But here's my thing, you guys. What else? Who are these girls that are hating on Caitlin Clark? Stop acting like, because you see some randos on Twitter knocking Caitlin Clark. Let's be honest. Kelsey Mitchell is no pushover. She's been working hard in this league for a long time. The interview began with lighthearted banter. By the end, it was a masterclass in media judo. Kelsey's honesty countered every attempt to deflect or reframe Caitlin's impact. And I believe that if I can give or drop any form of advice based on experiences that literally I've seen myself in situations where I had to figure out if I wanted to return to India. I had to. She didn't need to say anything about Caitlin Clark, but she chose to. That's leadership. It was like figuring out what I needed, and I realized that you have to go where you're literally loved. I mean that literally and intentionally, because all money is not good money. And let's not forget how much Caitlin Clark has helped Kelsey Mitchell both on and off the court. With all the attention in the media on her, Caitlin used her platform to praise her backcourt partner, saying that Kelsey should have won Player of the Month multiple times instead of her. She called her one of the main reasons for Indiana's recent comeback, and more importantly, she credited Kelsey for helping her develop in her rookie season. I feel very fortunate to have played with her, and I'm not even trying to sound corny, but I think she deserved it. I think she should have received a little love because of what she was doing. And at the clip, she was like 50, 40, 90, which is really hard to do. I feel fortunate to have a backcourt mate who has been there for me for 7 years, and she has really helped me and allowed me to flourish. When you consider that the biggest player in the sport turned the spotlight around and pointed it directly at her teammate, that's genuine chemistry and mutual respect, which is exactly why Kelsey felt compelled to clap back. I'm a Fever girl again. I'm a Fever girl. I'm excited. I kind of miss this court. Yeah, I'm a Fever girl again. A lot of thought went into this decision based on what I needed for myself and obviously for my family, friends, and India is a second home, so I thought I'd give it a try. When someone tried to cheapen what they built in Indiana, it wasn't just about two teammates supporting each other. It was about shifting the narrative and resisting the constant attempts to undermine Caitlin Clark's success. The Indiana Fever are not going to get away with dragging their name through the mud any longer if Kelsey Mitchell has anything to say about it. First of all, thank you for being here. I appreciate you showing Kelsey how important she is. So, yeah, everything about Kelsey Mitchell is core values, her core basketball, everything about her is what we're about. So there was no way she was going. When Kelsey Mitchell takes the court, she brings not only talent, but also history, loyalty, and the kind of dedication that leaves a lasting legacy. Krakoff took a moment to publicly acknowledge Kelsey's contribution. It wasn't just a compliment, it served as a reminder to everyone of who kept the Indiana Fever team together through the ups and downs in a league that is always looking for the next big thing. Mitchell has been the glue that kept everything together for 7 seasons. There is no flash or theatrics, just consistent excellence and unwavering faith in the team. Let's figure out where this program is going and what we're trying to achieve. And based on the way I like to see myself playing, I could do that with people like Caitlin, AB, Liz, and the list goes on with Lexi Hall and Grace Berger. I'm excited about the group we have, and I get to play with some really. Here is the Rena Fever girl. Even during the most trying times when the team was having trouble winning, Kelsey stayed a constant force. As the attention shifted to newer players and faces, she continued to show up and put her all into every game, practice, and fan interaction. Now that the Fever are experiencing a much-needed comeback, it's time for people to start making connections. This rise wasn't achieved in a vacuum. Players like Mitchell persevered through the storm and remained dedicated when it would have been easier to walk away. I'm excited about our future, but I would never change my past because I know what I had to do to get here, and I wouldn't change it for the world ahead. Wheeler extra feed. Well, that was pretty foul. I'm glad to be among those who put the bricks down. Mitchell finished in the top 10 in the league in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and guess what? 2024 season 2. Kelsey didn't stay for the attention. She stayed because this team means something to her. Indiana is more than just a place where she plays. It's a second home. And for a player who's been here through losing seasons and locker room rebuilds, this new chapter isn't just exciting, it's personal. Her leadership is what gives this team stability. Then came Chawa Kai, who entered the conversation with the kind of smug confidence that seems to follow legacy media figures who believe they have the final say on everything. Her remarks toward the Indiana Fever, and by extension their fans, felt condescending and unnecessary. She cracked jokes, made side remarks, and threw shade at the fervent Fever fan base as if it were a nuisance rather than one of the main events. Mitchell owns the top 3 highest scoring performances in Fever history. Mitchell ranks second in franchise history in career points, field goals, three-pointers, and free throws, factors contributing to the league's recent surge in popularity. It wasn't a discussion, rather, it was a backhanded dismissal wrapped in a facade of professionalism. To the fans, I believe you are a major factor in my decision, a part of Indiana being home to me, and the fans have also become like family to me. Knowing how the atmosphere feels, I feel great about some of the love that was poured into me over the course of last year. So I'm grateful, definitely grateful. The moment Caitlin Clark's name left Kelsey's mouth, it was like a shock to the system. For months, ESPN and its WNBA insiders have worked hard to portray Clark's arrival as just one. Chana inquired about the explosion, and for some reason, she didn't expect Kelsey to acknowledge the CC effect, the Caitlin Clark effect, especially after she began by trying to be disrespectful, by being disrespectful to the Fever team and the fans. Kelsey Mitchell kept it real, and I could sense that it was awkward. They've tried to give credit to everything and everyone else for the league's surge. Television deals, merchandise, historic franchises, anything to avoid giving one player too much attention. Mitchell wasn't just speaking the truth, she revealed a disconnect between the league's reality and the media's narrative. Cha threw her a softball question, and Kelsey did a fantastic job. Her acknowledgement of Clark's impact went beyond simply giving her props. It was a statement that this Fever team, this fan base, and this moment in women's sports deserve to be taken seriously. To be clear, Mitchell wasn't just defending her teammates, she was also advocating for the culture the Fever are currently establishing, one based on unity, resilience, and the kind of no-nonsense attitude that wins games and silences skeptics. This is why the Chen of the world are unable to fully comprehend what is happening here. They are too preoccupied with fabricating stories to see the reality. Indiana isn't just riding a wave of hype, they are creating something strong and sustainable, something based on the foundation that Kelsey Mitchell helped lay. This is fascinating to me because although Chennai does not play in the WNBA, she nevertheless represents the media and how they want to not acknowledge the contributions that Indiana Fever fans make to this league. When former players like her criticize the league under the pretense of media commentary, they aren't merely expressing their opinions, they are reinforcing outdated mindsets. They speak from a place of legacy, but refuse to embrace the legacy that is being built right in front of them. That's why Kelsey's words were so powerful, because she wasn't speaking for the cameras, rather she was speaking from the heart on behalf of a fan base that has shown up cheering loudly and helped revive the very league they're accused of ruining. Let's take a moment to talk about those fans. They're not just part of the story, they are the story. They're filling arenas, crashing online merch stores, and demonstrating that women's basketball has a market and a movement behind it. But figures like Chad continue to act as though these fans are somehow a problem. That kind of disconnect is not only frustrating, but embarrassing for Indiana Fever fans. I find it funny that Kelsey Mitchell made it clear that this isn't about clicks, headlines, or hot takes, but rather about recognizing who's showing up, who's putting in the work, and who deserves to be celebrated. Indiana Fever fans aren't toxic, they're passionate. And Caitlin Clark isn't a sideshow. She's a phenomenon that the league needs more of, not less. Hopefully, at some point, the media and the WNBA will get their act together and realize that they should embrace exactly what Kelsey Mitchell just said. But this isn't just a moment, it's a movement. If you're a part of it, leave a comment below, like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss it. If you have a fever or disparage the fans, keep in mind that Kelsey Mitchell is watching and she's not afraid to speak up, because this team isn't about narratives, it's about facts. And the fact is, Indiana is rising with Mitchell and Clark leading the charge. Haters better get used to it.